Hello, and welcome to another Score Sheet Baseball podcast. Happy to say that today we have one of the guys who's running Baseball HQ, Ray Murphy. How you doing, Ray?
Jeff, always a pleasure. Good to catch up with you.
Yeah, the Baseball HQ guys always run a symposium, a fantasy baseball conference in Arizona every fall. I've gone for about 10 or 11 straight years and had to miss it this last fall for the first time. So I haven't seen you in a while, so good to talk to you.
Likewise, you're looking well.
Yeah, I get better looking every day. And you too, you're looking younger every day.
Yeah, I'm trying to hide the shadows here.
Yeah, well, you're recovering from Ray's from Boston, so he had kind of a rough Super Bowl time.
I did. It's true.
Yeah, but if any of you guys listening want something baseball related to do at the end of October, going to Phoenix and watching a bunch of baseball games and listening to all sorts of fantasy experts talk about fantasy baseball, it's pretty hard to beat it. So if you're ever thinking of doing that, I'd go. Because the fantasy talk is excellent, and the baseball games, there's no one in the stands. You can sit 2 rows behind home plate and watch the top prospects in the game.
Yeah, the cliche favorite memory of mine from that was the year when we were there and Bryce Harper and Mike Trout were in the same outfield as like 18 to 19-year-olds. That was a pretty good time.
Yeah, and you can sit 3 rows behind, or you can choose to sit in front of some scout and listen to his tidbits, or kind of whatever you want to do.
Exactly. My eavesdropping skills get honed every November.
Yeah, no, that's a good time. And then the BaseballHQ.com, they've been around just about the same as Scoresheet, like 30 years now, right?
Right in that neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah, Ron Chandler started that. Like us, there were no websites, I don't think, when he started. I think he was like us. It was all paper. And then a few years later, it became the web.
Yeah, I think Ron actually started as a fax service, if I'm not mistaken, and then the internet came along and you guys all got it on the ground floor.
Yeah, we used to get things to the mail. That's right. He would fax out, him and Rick Wilton, who was his partner back then, would fax out injury reports and things like that. Speaking of injuries, one of the unique things you guys do when you forecast players, pretty much everybody says, okay, we forecast Logan Morrison to have an OPS of 810 in 2018. But you guys have what you call, I guess, is a injury risk assessment that, really says, well, this guy could do this, but this is your risk.
Yeah, so we call them our reliability grades, and they're just broad brush letter grades. That one of the nice things about them is they're applicable to any format. These are the kind of things that you worry about in your score sheet league as much as you do in a roto league or whatever format you play. And we boil it into 3 letter grades. You get a health grade, which, like you say, is sort of self-explanatory, but we base that on historical DL days. So you get an A grade if you've been on the DL for less than, I forget the number, but less than 20 or 30 days in the last couple of years. And then there's another letter grade for consistency where you get an A if you put up sort of the same OPS every year in your example. But if you're 500 one year and 800 the next, you're going to get a low grade for that. And then the last one is sort of a playing time and experience where we track plate appearances, and if you're sort of a regular every year and getting your 500 at bats, you get the highest grade for that. So you put those letter grades together, and it sort of gives you what we call at the top end sort of like a AAA reliability, where you got a pretty good idea, like you said, not only what the projection is, but that this guy, we don't expressly say they're going to meet that projection, but it's an area where you can have a little more confidence in the projection than some guy who's in his second year in the majors and his performance has been all over the map. And he's been on the DL and, but had 2 good months in between DL stints or something like that.
Yeah, because, I'm one of those guys, like many. In the first round, I'm not going to win my league by my first round pick, but you can kind of lose your league if you pick a guy in the first round and he's an injury risk, and sure enough, he gets injured again. It's tough to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big problem, especially with those expensive picks. Those, in score sheet parlance, you're around 14, 15, 16. You're not necessarily looking for the sleeper who nobody else has dialed in on yet. You can throw your darts at those guys in around 20s and 30s, but those first couple of picks, you're trying to fill a hole in your lineup with something resembling guaranteed production. So, a lower risk profile in those guys is good to know.
Yeah. Another nice thing about Baseball HQ for Score Sheet is that, unlike a lot of sites, they've got a fair amount of score sheet content. For one, Ray and the gentleman he runs it with, Brent Hershey, they've both played score sheet forever. And an awful lot of the folks that write and work for HQ, they're also score sheet players. So you're not limited to just getting advice about how many steals Billy Hamilton's going to get. You're going to, there's score sheet forums, there's people who can answer your questions about score sheet. And better yet, their projections are really score sheet usable, because a lot of you get projections for what a guy's going to do in real life, not what his roto value is.
Yeah, sort of the best thing we did, one of the things when Brent and I took over the site, one of the things I'd wanted to do for a long time, and I sort of did really just for myself because I needed it as much as I wanted to do it for our customers, is when we integrated the score sheet, player defensive ratings, and platoon shifts right into our projections so that they were right there. Because every year I would go through that exercise of merging all that data together myself, and I finally said, hey, look, I'm in charge. I can do something about this. Let me make this easier. And, not only will it be easier for me, but all the customers will benefit too. And, this is the time of year I'm already in my first score sheet draft is in round 20 or something like that today. And I'm looking at that stuff all the time. So every time I look at it, I'm like, boy, I'm really glad I did this.
Yeah, we all get busy in our lives. And it's kind of nice if you're really time cramped, you can just go to BBHQ and say, okay, I want a projection for score, a list. Who's the next guy that is available in my draft by your projections? So if folks want to check out Baseball HQ, what's the best web address to go to?
BaseballHQ.com. Go right to the front page, and there are a bunch of links on the right side. You can check out, take a tour. There's always some free content right there on the front page. Sort of check out, some of the free articles we've done in the last week or so. Always right there, easy to access. There's a big yellow subscribe button up in the top right corner. You can go check out the subscription plans, and we should get some stuff out for scoresheet users and vice versa to get the scoresheet community into HQ and the HQ community into scoresheet.
Yeah, no, I like. We've been trading plugs for each other and occasionally trading email addresses if customers let us, and all, both with Chandler and with you, for 25 years now, because you guys were pretty much the very first people to come out with ratings for players that were really applicable for scoresheet users.
And still are. Like I said, I've got a couple of windows open on my web browser right now. One of them is my scoresheet draft list, and the other one is our projections, where I'm sorting through, I'm combing through American League relievers right now, looking for a couple of guys to add to my bullpen. So I'm practicing what I preach, I guess.
Well, perfect. And then, like you said, there's always free content. Along with numbers, you guys are famous for having tons of numbers, but you also have columnists, so there's plenty of stuff to read if you don't want to just stare at a page of numbers. So since you've got all this open, I guess I'll pick your brain. You got a couple kind of sleeper type players that maybe people should target?
Sure. I was really annoyed. I'm a little American League focused at the moment, since, like I said, that's where my first draft is going on so far. But I was really annoyed in my AL Scorching Keeper League that I did not get Willie Calhoun in the round 14, 15 of that round, of that draft. He's got traded to the Rangers last year and looks like he's got a job this year. And I just love his bat. Dating back to our first pitch Arizona conversation, I think it was the last one you were at 2 years ago. He was there, and he had a couple of home runs in the All-Star game out there, and I've sort of had my eye on him ever since. And I think he's going to get decent playing time in Texas. That's obviously a good place to hit. I believe that bat's for real, so that was somebody I was targeting, and I guess I'll have to wait and get him in a different league.
Yeah, you're in a couple leagues. That is one thing that's pretty much the same in Roto and Scoresheet. Playing time. You can pick a great guy, but if he's stuck behind an all-star and he's going to be at Double-A all year, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good.
Yeah, and that kind of dovetails to my other sleepers. I think all year long I've been driving the all winter long. I've been driving the Free Wilmer Flores campaign, and no matter what I do, the Mets seem to just keep bringing in more aging veterans to block him from those all important at bats. First it was Jose Reyes, and now it's Todd Frazier. So, if that means Wilmer Flores is just going cheaper and I can get him even later in the draft, I will probably end up getting him and waiting for either him to hit his way into the lineup or one of those guys in front of him to get hurt because, it's the Mets and people get hurt. So I may have to wait a little bit for the payoff there, but I'm still driving the Wilmer Flores bus.
Well, I don't think the Mets sign you unless there's a really good chance of you getting hurt.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Then the other thing I just read today was Arizona's going to put a humidifier in for their baseballs, and for some reason they want to cut way down on the number of homers that are hitting their park.
Yeah, it seems kind of funny. Like, I don't know how intentional it is on their part, or, I mean, they're seeking out a humidor, so clearly, like you said, they want to cut the run scoring in their park, but from the very smart people, the physicists and those sort of people who have studied the effects of when they did it in Coors Field a number of years ago, I think I'm getting the impression that Diamondbacks don't realize how drastic an effect that could potentially be. So, like, I literally may have to go into the Baseball HQ projections in the next couple of days and start making some significant revisions for Diamondback hitters and pitchers because this seems like one of those cases where I don't want to use a violent metaphor, but some 6-year-old kid like my daughter's gets their hands on something they really shouldn't have their hands on and don't understand the impact of it.
Yeah, I understand why Coors did it because it almost wasn't like real baseball, but a lot of fans kind of like offense. Most teams, especially these days where pitchers are throwing a ton of strikeouts, they kind of like offense. So it seems a little strange to me, but maybe the pitching staff at Arizona carries some weight with the GM.
Well, yeah, that could very well be part of it. It's good news for Zach Greinke and Robbie Ray and those guys, no doubt about it.
Yeah, article I read made it sound like in the really dry desert air, it might have a bigger effect than it does in Coors. It could really affect how some players do. I wonder if JD. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and the other thing about it is, they get away with it in Coors because, even with the humidor taking some flight off the balls, the outfield is so big. 3 outfielders just can't cover that space, and you end up with a lot of balls that the humidor keeps in the park, but still end up in the gaps or off the wall or whatever. But in a normal sized park like Arizona, those balls are going to end up in outfielders' gloves more often. So, the impact on run scoring, like I said, I'm not sure they've fully thought through the implications, or maybe they're going to have to turn the humidor down by May after a bunch of 3 games in April or something. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of amazing the number of things you have to think about when you go to draft a player. I wasn't really counting on park effects at a park suddenly changing because of a humidor.
Yeah, seriously. And then somebody I got an exchange with one of our HQ subscribers earlier this week asking me to, put some more content or write some articles about players who might get traded out of the league in midseason and, people who shouldn't be getting drafted because they might leave the league in July and they'll lose the stats. And I'm like, I can't predict that in mid-July, let alone in March. I'd rather spend my brain cycles on draft season worrying about things I can control. But then you get things like this just thrown into the mix, and it's like you said, you can really go down the rabbit hole and get lost in all of the data that's available to us these days.
Yeah, that original rotisserie rule where if you draft a guy and then he gets traded to the other league in July, you just plain lose him. When my brother David and I were first starting Score Sheet, and we're kind of looking at rotisserie rules and we're coming up with a simulation, that was pretty much the first rule we changed. We said, this is ridiculous. You might lose him next year, but if you draft Mike Trout and he gets traded to the Dodgers in July, you don't suddenly lose your best player. Injuries are bad enough. You can't control those, really. You shouldn't be at the mercy of a real-life GM just trading away a superstar.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like you said, if you're designing a game from scratch, it makes all the sense in the world that you look at that and say, well, this is dumb. And I think a lot of leagues have realized that over the years. I think it was a limitation of the the Tuesday and Wednesday USA Today distribution back in the 80s. But, we don't have to live by those rules anymore. So you're right. My closing comment to this guy was, oh, by the way, change your rule. It's dumb.
Yeah, if you got a bad rule, don't ask the analyst to predict something unpredictable. Change the rule to be a little more sensible. Well, it's been good seeing you again, Ray. And once again, where's people? It's just BaseballHQ, all one word.com, correct?
That is no hyphens, no underscores, no spaces, just baseballhq.com.
Yeah, and I can't, I mean, like I said, they've been around forever. You guys have probably been our longest running, well, I know you have been our longest running kind of partnership as far as us recommending you as a numbers site and column site, and you guys driving people our way, which we greatly appreciate. And I'm sure you guys are going to have another fantastic season over there.
Yeah, I hope we're trying to keep our heads up above the waterline here in the preseason fire drill. I'm sure you're in the same mode, so I wish you good luck.
Yeah, no, I put in the 16 and a half hour day yesterday, and I'm getting kind of old for that. So they used to not be so hard, and now it's like I can do one or two, and then I'm about dead. But you guys got books that come out. You got a big, huge book comes out every fall, the Baseball Forecaster, which is fantastic. You've got a website, and you guys are also a website that you're just as useful during the season as you are during the preseason, maybe even more so.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a lot of content. We turn it over to our writers a lot in season, and certainly, there's certainly a lot going on there. But from a workload perspective, my workload gets way quieter during the baseball season, which is nice because I get to, actually enjoy some baseball. But yeah, you're right. Between the books and the conferences, and then the supporting everyone in their draft prep at this time of year, the off season is, one has sort of become one giant fire drill. So we got another. We got pitchers and catchers in, so we got 5-6 weeks to opening day. I look forward to it for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. My friends ask me, "What do you mean you can't go ski today? It's baseball hasn't started yet." I'm like, "No, call me like April 15th and I'll go fishing or something." But right now,
Totally.
It's the busy time. Well, great chatting with you, and we'll do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Glad to see you get the pod going again here.
Yeah, it's been a 3-year break. Thanks, Ray.
Take care, Jeff.
All right, but.